Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Oregon is facing an urgent challenge, delivering affordable, reliable energy to our residents while continuing to meet Oregon's climate commitments. The rising cost of living is hitting Oregonians' household budgets hard, so we must act effectively and prudently to protect ratepayers from increased energy costs while also building a more resilient, clean energy future. Oregon has set ambitious clean electricity and climate action goals through legislation like House Bill 2021 in the 2021 session. Now, we must ensure that these goals are achieved in the most cost-effective way possible. That's why today I'm issuing Executive Order 25-29, which establishes clear accountability and coordination across our state government to meet the goal of affordable, reliable, clean power. This order directs all executive branch agencies to align their decisions, activities, and investments with the 5 least cost pathways identified in the Oregon Energy Strategy. This isn't just a planning document, it's our roadmap for delivering results efficiently and affordably. Good governance means clear lines of responsibility. My natural resources team will help me lead these efforts, but the directors of each state agency called out in the executive order, I think almost all of them are here today, if not all of them, they will be accountable for integrating these strategies into their programs and day-to-day operations. We simply have to do everything we can with the resources we have as effectively and efficiently as possible. This coordination is going to eliminate duplication, leverage resources effectively, and I think most importantly, ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. This executive order creates a framework for reducing carbon pollution through the most cost-effective approaches. Electrification where it makes economic sense. Efficiency improvements that lower operating costs. And strategic clean energy infrastructure investments. By following the least cost pathways, we'll fight climate change while simultaneously improving grid reliability and lowering long-term energy costs for Oregon families and Oregon businesses. We can accelerate affordable clean energy deployment by streamlining permitting and project approvals, cutting the red tape that drives up costs and delays. We can do that through strategic planning for transmission corridors, which will ensure we build the right infrastructure in the right places, avoiding costly mistakes and delivering clean energy efficiently. We also need effective public-private partnerships, because with those partnerships, we will maximize private sector innovation and capital, reducing the burden on ratepayers while creating good-paying jobs. Smart governance means maximizing these partnerships to stretch every dollar further. There are going to be a lot of people involved in this. I'm going to start off by thanking all the Oregon's state agency directors who are committed to this coordinated approach. And I want to thank our private sector partners who understand that affordability and accountability must be central to Oregon's energy future. Through disciplined execution and transparent governance, we will protect Oregonians from rising energy costs while also building the resilient, clean energy system our state deserves and needs. And with that, I'd like to turn over the podium to our next speaker. We have several speakers, as Anka has mentioned, and I'd like to invite Nicole Hughes with Renewable Northwest to deliver some remarks. Nicole, I'll step back.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Hughes. I'm the Executive Director of Renewable Northwest. We are a clean energy advocacy organization working across the Pacific Northwest. And our mission is to decarbonize the electricity sector by expanding clean energy. I want to start by thanking the Governor and her staff for this timely and critical declaration. Oregonians are already feeling the consequences of delayed action on electricity infrastructure, most visibly through rising electricity rates. The growing threat of wildfire and extreme weather driven by climate change will only worsen the cost pressures and quality of life impacts. This executive order centers these realities and highlights important actions identified by the state's first energy strategy. The actions tasked to agencies represent a monumental step forward towards accelerating solutions that strengthen our grid, lower costs, protect our communities, and strengthen our economy. We are especially encouraged to see the governor call for stronger alignment between Oregon's clean energy goals and state energy actions. There are meaningful efficiencies to be found in siting and permitting regulations, and we are eager to support agencies as they implement streamlining measures. Oregon has been a national leader in conservation and land use planning for more than 50 years. But our landmark land use laws were not built for today's climate and energy challenges. If we want to protect what Oregons value the most, our landscapes, our communities, and our ability to keep electricity affordable and reliable, we must modernize our systems so clean energy projects and the transmission that connects them can actually get built. We appreciate Governor Kotek's leadership in issuing this order, which is critical to advancing the state's energy strategy, helping power a thriving community, economy, and a cleaner and more resilient energy future. Thank you for being here today, and now I will hand it over to my colleague, Nora Apter.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Nora Apter. I'm the Oregon Director with Climate Solutions. We're a regional nonprofit working to accelerate clean energy solutions to the climate crisis. It is wonderful to have the opportunity to gather and celebrate, especially as we take another leap towards shaping Oregon's clean energy future. Governor Kotek, thank you for your leadership and for taking decisive action to move our state forward. With Oregonians facing rising energy costs, worsening climate impacts, and federal rollbacks that threaten our cornerstone climate and environmental justice protections, state-level leadership has never been more critical. And in an era where extreme drought and wildfires are already harming our communities, we need a little less talk and a lot more action. Governor Kotek's executive order delivers in spades. Last week, the state released its long-awaited energy strategy, a roadmap for building a resilient, affordable, and clean energy future. But too often, reports sit on a shelf and gather dust. They only become a strategy when they're implemented. That's why this executive order is so significant. It moves the plan off the page and into action, directing state agencies to align their decisions and investments with Oregon's affordable, clean energy pathways. This action strengthens our economy by doubling down on what's already working. That includes Oregon's cornerstone Clean Fuels program, which is helping school districts deploy electric buses, enabling towns big and small to install public chargers, and expanding access to renewable diesel to clean up our air and existing fleets. It also takes many actions to drive strategic electrification of buildings and vehicles, reducing pollution while saving families and businesses money. And it makes our energy system stronger and more reliable, enhancing grid resilience, expanding storage, and bolstering transmission to keep electricity affordable and dependable for every Oregonian. We can and must achieve our 100% clean electricity goals, and this order provides the momentum and focus needed to get there. Nearly 60,000 Oregonians already work in clean energy, from heat pump installers keeping our families safe in extreme weather, to line workers upgrading the grid for wildfire resilience. This executive order will accelerate the clean energy transition and create even more family wage jobs in construction, manufacturing, and operations. These are jobs that can't be exported and are powering both our economy and our clean energy future. This executive order sets the stage for continued progress and future legislative action to remove barriers and deploy solutions at scale. We can't do it alone. It will take all of us rolling up our sleeves to make our clean energy future a reality. But this is a decisive step forward and a demonstration that Oregon cannot and will not wait for federal leadership to protect our communities, our economy, and our future. Let's continue to lead, innovate, and create opportunities for all Oregonians together. Thank you, and I'm excited to turn it over to my colleague, Tim Miller, with Oregon Business for Climate.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Tim Miller, and I'm the Director of Oregon Business for Climate. We believe Oregon can and must do more to address climate change, that every business can play a part, and that there's a strong business case for doing so. Our League of Forward-Looking Businesses represents a wide range of industries across the state, from those directly involved in the clean energy economy to those who simply see the importance of action. When I first read the governor's new executive order on climate change, my reaction was yes, yes, yes. The EO, which activates much of Odo's great work on the state energy strategy, calls for exactly the kinds of agency actions and coordination that we and our partner organizations have been looking for. It drives action to accelerate renewable energy, transmission, energy efficiency, smart electrification, clean transportation, and fuels, and other strategies. All areas where equitable climate action and policies and investments are needed now more than ever. While delivering health and resilience and affordability benefits for our communities and helping achieve our climate targets, from a business perspective, this EO is good for our economy and good for job creation. In the clean tech sectors of our economy, the EO creates opportunities to build on our strengths with innovative solutions in buildings, transportation, battery storage, the smart grid, and other areas. As an example, in the smart grid space, Oregon already has a cluster of businesses and expertise aligned under the banner of the PowerEyes Northwest Consortium, ready to capitalize on opportunities just like this. In manufacturing, the EO builds on several of the findings from the Clean Energy Manufacturing Task Force that Governor Kotek launched last year, convening dozens of industry leaders and others to address barriers, build alignment, and grow manufacturing jobs as Oregon builds toward leadership in the growing clean economy. Beyond clean tech and manufacturing, the strong execution of this EO will also drive local jobs into every corner of the state. For all the contractors and crews and technicians that are building infrastructure, pouring concrete, installing electrical and charging equipment, and working in crawl spaces and attics to ensure our homes are weatherized for energy efficiency. Along with all this job creation across all these sectors, this EO boosts our economy through cost savings in reduced energy costs, reduced health costs, reduced recovery costs thanks to increased resilience. With these cost savings, more money will circulate up and down Main Street, creating economic multiplier effects in towns throughout Oregon. So you can see why I reacted with a big yes to the actions and alignment called out in this EO. Yes to the assignment of defining additional targeted policy steps we need. Yes to the accountability and timelines the governor has laid out to ensure progress. To wrap up, the second reaction I had when reading this EO was that it's a great example of the insights and recommendations in this already widespread book. I couldn't help bringing a prop. Abundance. Abundance. This EO requires smart collaboration and aims to remove outdated barriers. We've built a lot of processes to ensure that we get things done right, but this EO reminds the state that we also have to get things done. So faced with the challenges of the climate crisis, this EO points us to the huge opportunity in building our way toward a clean energy economy. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to members, questions from members of the media. So we're going to start with questions related to the EO. Oops, absent. Alex?
Is there anything specific you can point to with like citing and permitting reform that people, those are like abstractions as words? Like, can you say, in a year from now, the process will be 5 times faster because today it takes 20 years for a new transmission corridor to be approved? Something like real.
Well, before I forget, I want to thank Nicole, Nora, and Tim for speaking, so thank you. It's a really good question. Maybe I just set a little stage. You know, I've been a climate champion all during my time in the legislature, and we've set some very specific goals. And when I came into office, I think there was a lot of optimism that under the Biden administration and the additional investments that were being made at the federal level, we finally had a partner in the federal government that was going to help us really catalyze everything we had put in place in Oregon. Obviously, under the new administration and President Trump's goals and dislikes of a lot of the things that relate to clean energy, we had to reconsider what we have here in the state and what we can do. The first executive order I put out, 2525, was saying, hey, we've got projects in the pipeline right now that are gonna take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act, tax credits. Let's put those first. So I put that one out. Then we talked about the resilience of our natural working lands, because that is really important as well for responding to climate change, as well as making sure what we care about in our state can be part of the resilience we need as climate changes. Now we're talking about what we need to really meet our goals in an affordable way that where we're not getting help from the federal government. So I want to give a little context for that. We are currently right now with the Oregon Energy Strategy done, we will be mapping exactly the questions you're asking. How do permitting processes come together? Are they sequential? Can they be happening all at the same time? What can the agencies be doing differently to speed those things up? We will be tracking those things, creating those internal dashboards to answer those questions. And in the executive order, there are very specific dates. No later than certain dates, I need to see these things on the ground. I don't think we have to wait for all those dates in the executive order either, because we don't have any time to waste here. We have investors who want to grow. We have folks in, say, the clean fuel sector who know that this is where the economy is going by putting more energy behind the Clean Fuels program to extend the timeline and talk about more ways to maximize what's happening in that sector. We are actually going to put cleaner, cheaper fuels like renewable diesel out faster. So I'm hoping I can come back 3 months, 6 months from now and say, here's what's exactly different. But today we have commitment across all of our state agencies through this executive order, and the authority by the executive order to say, we're all on the same page here, we need to do this, we need to make sure that what we've been doing in the past will be different 3, 6, 9 months from now, so we can get projects going, permitting going, changing existing programs to even be better than they already are, and we're gonna do all that without the help from the federal government.
It's a quick follow-up. The OPB Republican investigation that found BPA glacial on transmission upgrades that would allow clean energy to connect. Are you going to work with BPA, or I guess how does the state usurp their power over the grid?
You know, the BPA is a very interesting part of the energy system here in the Northwest. When I first came into office, I had clear commitments from BPA leadership that they were really going to start investing much more effectively and efficiently and bigger in the grid enhancements. I'm going to keep pushing for that. Nothing has changed about the need to upgrade our grid. And frankly, pushing back on BPA when they make poor choices that will actually increase the cost of electricity by signaling that they're going to join a market that I think will have ill effects for the entire Pacific Northwest. So my message to the BPA is, we need you to be a stronger partner, because how you move in this world on these issues is going to be important for us all reaching our goals, and they need to be a better partner.
Governor, at 12:42 today, I received a essay from someone castigating this order before it had even been announced, saying it would increase gasoline prices, and it referred specifically to things in the order that the person is.
Did they say why?
Don't want to. Well, they talk about like the clean fuel, clean stuff. So, how would you respond to that? Is it going to increase fuel prices?
So the Clean Fuels program and the Low Carbon Fuel Standard has been around, are we going on 10 years? That was the original concern, right? And so I don't know if that's based on original concerns or where the program is today. What we have seen with that program, it is working. We have seen diversification in the fuel supply. We have seen the ability of resources to help people decarbonize in their transportation, whether it's school buses or other things. It is working. And what I have heard from folks, when I talk, for example, to truckers who are like, we need more renewable diesel, because that renewable diesel is cleaner for our engines, less upkeep on the engines. That's where we want to go. Great. Well, how do we incentivize that? We need to make sure that the low carbon fuel the Clean Fuels program in Oregon is better aligned with what other states are doing. We were a leader, and frankly, we need to catch up with what's happening in other states, because they are putting more low-cost fuel products into the system that will reduce emissions and be more cost-effective and efficient over time. So we want to make sure we get back out ahead on this. I don't believe at the end of the day this is about increasing the cost of fuel. It's about making sure what is available is better for our health and better for the climate, and creating more jobs, creating more investment in a sector that is already growing. I don't want Oregon to miss out on that growth.
Any other questions about the executive order? Okay. Questions generally? Carlos?
Hi, Governor. Sorry to change the topic. Legislators across the street, I think that way, all week have been hearing from agencies, obviously about potential options to reduce their budgets. And then we get the revenue forecast today that seems to change maybe the short-term picture, but not the long-term picture so much. So I'm just curious, what are you telling agencies right now? What can they expect in the coming months?
Well, the forecast today, I would read it as we have a lot of households still struggling. The economic headwinds have stabilized, but it's not the best forecast we would want, right? Certainly there's been an uptick in some of the resources. My message to legislators and to agencies is we will have to tighten our belt. We will have to focus on reductions. Whether we like it or not, the bill out of Congress has put our budget out of balance. And not only is it going to require us to make some reductions, we also have to spend money because of Trump's bill. For example, we're going to have to spend more money on the SNAP program because they're going to pull away administrative money by the end of the biennium. So we are not out of the budgetary challenges. Everybody needs to get serious. We have to do as much as we can with what we have. Let's not start new things. Let's focus on the essentials. Let's focus on making sure Oregonians can be taken care of. And it's going to be many months of conversation about how we rebalance the budget in the best way for Oregon.
Then quick follow-up, in the short session, are you supportive of lawmakers temporarily disconnecting from some of the federal tax cuts, or what is your engagement like with lawmakers on that?
I don't think we should talk about tax changes until we have fully identified the level of the reductions that might be necessary and whether or not we have other options to address the budget before we talk about that.
Thank you.
Questions from statesmen? Yep.
Kind of on that topic, if the increased taxes to fund ODA go to referendum, will ODA operations be funded through the November election, or will the agency be facing another budget gap until then?
So I have a lot of trust in Oregonians that they understand that it's important to plow the roads, maintain the roads, make sure people get to where they need to safely. That's why the legislature passed and I signed a transportation package that gets us there. If that bill is referred to the voters for next November, that will immediately freeze the resources that the agency is now using today to hire people for maintenance and operations. That will have to stop, and we will be back in crisis if we are on hold until next November.
So, how will ODA be able to maintain the roads this winter amid if this budget gap happens, and where would the funding come from?
Well, here's what I do know. The folks who are proponents of the referral, they don't have a solution. So I need to be sitting down soon with Republican leaders and say, well, what is your solution? If you don't like what was passed and it goes to the voters, how are we going to fund basic services at ODOT and at cities and at counties and at transit districts? I will be asking them that question because they need to have an answer. If they don't want to vote for that, they need to have an answer, not just refer something they don't like.
If I may, two totally separate questions, but this kind of relates to bill and transportation. It was like happening at the end of the last session that Republicans started chirping about the climate protection program and the money in there potentially being used for some of the renewable stuff that the Department of Transportation was struggling to find money for, safe bike to school, electrification for buses, stuff like that. I'm gathering from Democrats now that they're even talking to Republicans about the possibility of that down the line. Is that something that you're willing to entertain? If not a cap and pave, a climate protection program that's reconfigured to send money to those clean energy programs within the Department of Transportation, freeing up money that they can use for other things.
I am supportive of our current climate protection program. We have to continue on our track to meet our goals. That is a mechanism we have, and we aren't even in the first compliance periods where we have resources to actually spend elsewhere. So that is still moving forward. There has been conversation since the transportation package started around a cap and invest program, a market-based program to align with Washington and future California to have a different approach to carbon pollution reduction. I will say it is very difficult to imagine that getting done in the short session. I think people have to be serious about what we're trying to achieve, and we need to have a bipartisan proposal. I think what's frustrating for me is, as someone who stood on the floor in 2019 and 2020, trying to pass the exact same program that now everyone in the business community says we need, I need to see a bipartisan proposal, and that means Republicans stepping up and saying, this is how they want to solve problems.
My quick follow-up has nothing to do with any of this, but it's a bummer, I'm sorry. Attendance rates really low statewide. Tomorrow, we're all gonna have stories that say 9th grade on track, record highs. However, 35% of those 9th graders didn't even come to school regularly. Over half of 12th graders didn't come to school regularly. How do you reconcile that without saying, I guess attendance doesn't matter?
Well, attendance does matter.
But then half of Oregon seniors aren't going, 35% of kids aren't regularly attending school. Is there anything with more teeth that you and the Department of Education are doing? I hear rural school superintendents calling for truancy courts again, and fines to homes, trying to get parents to send their kids to school.
I do think schools across the state are looking for ways to solve this problem, and frankly, we are still working on it. But we have to bring more urgency to it, and I agree with that. We have been doing what we have traditionally done, which is put out tools to districts and say, do this, do that. And there are districts who are having a lot of success.
I wouldn't call 2.5% great success.
Well, we have districts who are making it work, so I know if districts can do it, other districts can do it, and they are improving their attendance records. Couple things, I think there's two factors that I think by the end of the school year, we're gonna see better numbers. We're not at where I wanna be at the front of the school year. One is the cell phone ban. I know that doesn't seem like that matters, but what I'm hearing from educators is that not allowing cell phones in the schools during the school day has created new environments for our students. Kids are feeling more connected with their friends. They are more attuned to their classwork. They are coming to school because they think they are feeling more welcome. So I think we're going to see impacts from the cell phone ban. I know that's preliminary, but I think we're going to see that. The flip side and the downside is I don't think we can underestimate the fear in families across our state, Black, Indigenous, people of color households, for their children being profiled as Black and brown kids, not wanting to go to school, citizen or not. That is one of the impacts of the Trump administration, what it is doing to our schools. So we can be working as hard as we possibly can to make our schools welcoming, and the federal administration is scaring the crap out of people right now, and their kids are not going to school. So we're gonna work on that piece and help our schools, but I just gotta tell you, it's a very difficult environment for our students right now.
Last question? Sure.
Earlier today, you talked about the demobilization of the National Guard in the state. Do you have a timeline for this, or sort of a schedule for that happening?
So I have an update if it hasn't hit everyone's emails by now, but so earlier today, we had verbal commitment from the Northern Command that all 200 Oregon National Guard troops were going to be demobilized and be going home. Now we're hearing they're waiting, and so we don't know if that's actually happening. We had been told 100 would be going to demobilization and going home. We were hoping for the full 200. They told us it would be the full 200. I think it's just an indicator of the confusion and inconsistency and lack of, frankly, protocol to decide what is happening with our National Guard troops. I'm going to keep pushing for sending everybody home, following the law and the federal court order. People should be home. The holiday season is starting. They should be home. Let's stop wasting millions of dollars by keeping our troops in places that make no sense. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.